How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I am good. Thank you so much for asking. So, today is your turn to share your story, to share your experience um, as a part of this Mother's Day series. Did you want to start by giving your mother's name and her date of birth and her date of death? Or are you going to add something at the end to it?
Um, sure. I can not her date of birth, baby. No, no. Um, so my mom's name is Ellen, and she passed away on January 22nd of 2026. So this year.
And how are you?
Depends on when you ask. As you know, earlier today I was not too hot,
Mhm.
but at this moment I'm okay.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear it. So tell us a little bit about your mom.
So my mom was God fearing. She was nurturing, loving, um, supportive, protective, and she was funny. She's really funny. Um, I always think of this story. Hadn't thought about it in years, but I used to be in the choir when I was younger. And I had this friend when we were in high school, and she was like, "Your mom, she just looks so angelic. She looks like a virgin." And I thought that was so funny. And I was like, she is going to get a kick out of that. And I'm like, Ma, April said you look like a virgin. She was, tell April I said, thank you. So, yeah, that's her. She does. She has like this angelic presence. Everybody thought she was just so, such a goody goody, so holy, but she was funny.
She was very pretty also.
She
Like your
was
mom was
beautiful,
beautiful.
beautiful.
Yep. Um, what made her special?
What made like so today we might call it a code switch, but what
Mhm.
made her special is like when I go back and look at pictures of she and my dad in the 70s, they used to be at parties and they would be drinking, they would be cussing, and she kind of evolved into this saved person when I was about 9 years old. So she did a
Mhm.
complete 180. So for anybody that knows my dad, he can barely form a sentence without profanity. And my mom is this godly woman that's always carrying her Bible. So it's just kind of it's kind of hard to see them together, but she was very candid and very real about who she was before she got saved. She struggled with gambling and she would always share that with people. So she was just a very down to earth person. And
Mhm.
um yeah, that's how I can describe her. She was genuine, she was super saved.
Okay. Okay. I think it's funny that both of your parents are funny. It explains so much, you know? Um, what is one memory that you have of your mom that always makes you smile?
The edible story. And as I talk about my mom, I want to be respectful of who she was because she was so private. Like her best friend was like she was so private, it just makes you sick. Like she was just so
Mm.
private. And I don't know who will be watching this, but I know people would just be like, edible. And, so I want to be respectful, but she told everybody
Oh,
this
she did?
story.
She
It
did?
Yeah, and it was so embarrassing for me. So just to tell you a little bit about her. So my mom had interstitial lung disease. A lot of people don't know what that is, but it's similar to sarcoidosis. So it's a lung disorder, it's respiratory. She had been on oxygen since about 2012, maybe before that. So, she had been sick. So the pandemic was a really, really rough time for all of us because once they were talking about people and their mortality, I was thinking like this is it. This
Mhm.
is where we're going to lose her. And she kind of thought the same thing. So it was just a scary time. And, we didn't have anything to do. So we were just watching TV all day. She would watch CNN. She would get herself all worked up. And I'm like, what can I do to make her feel better? What can we do to soothe her? So I had taken CBD before and I'm like, I got an edible. I'm just gonna give her a little sliver. So it's like if you think of a gummy and then you take a razor and you slice it, it's like a thin, thin slice, almost like something you want to give a baby. So
A
I gave
miniature
her
gummy of, like, a gummy bear? It was like a gummy
it
bear?
wasn't a bear, it was like a square. It was like
Mhm.
1 inch by 1 inch. So it was a
Okay.
square, and then I gave her like a sliver of it.
Mhm.
Big mistake. Big mistake. So I'm like, "Are you okay, ma? How you feeling?" She was like, "I'm feeling goofy." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And that just the drama unfolded.
Mm.
It was so bad. I had to call 911. And I live in a circle and there's like 10 homes and we can all see each other's homes. And the fire department was here, EMS was here. There were 5 of them in here and they were laughing at her. And I'm just like, I was having heart palpitations because I'm like, I gave this woman, like, she's on oxygen and I gave her an edible and look how she's acting. And they thought it was hilarious. I was all paranoid and they were like, this is normal. It's the pandemic. People are bored. We
Mhm.
get so many calls about people with these edibles and this is nothing. And like, we're going to just take her in just to have her checked out because, she's kind of worked up. So, they rolled her out of here and she grabbed her Bible. She's like, "Call the prayer warriors. Call everybody." And I'm like, "Oh my God." So they took her to the ER and she starts calling and she's like watching CNN. She's like, "These people are jumping off the side of the world." And then I'm like, "Mom, please call back a few minutes later. These beds in here look like the ones on Outbreak." And I'm like, "Mom," it was just so funny. So the entire ordeal is an episode all on its own, but long story short, she was home after about an hour and she just kept talking about it. She was just talking about it with everybody and I'm like, "Why are you telling people this story?" So like 3 weeks later, she's talking on the phone. She's like, "Oh, my daughter just gave me a gummy and she just got me so high. I ain't never been that high before." Like, "Who's she talking to?" And I'm like, "You're not still high 3 weeks later." And she was like, "Yes, I am." So she gets off the phone. I'm like, "Who are you talking to?" And she was like, "Pastor McCurry." I'm like,
From the
"Why would you tell her
from the
that I
prayer
gave you
line?
that?" Her, huh?
From the prayer line? Like,
No, this is the pastor of
the
her
pastor
entire
of her
church. And I'm
church.
like, "Why would you tell her that?" So I felt so bad. But she was just she was in such a panicky space. And I was too. And I wanted to make her feel better. She got such a kick out of that story. She would tell that story every chance she got. And I'm like, "Can you stop telling it?" So yeah, that was like a funny story that she loved to revisit. She got such a kick out of it. But by the grace of God, she never got COVID. She never
Mhm.
had COVID. So, yeah, that's her. Very funny, fun to be around, lots of laughs.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. So now, if it's okay, we'll transition into discussing the loss of her
Mhm.
and the impact on you. And then if you need to take a minute, of course, we'll take a minute. But was there a specific moment when you realized that life as you knew it was forever changed?
Yeah, so there was a 911 call on December 15th, and she called me and she's like, "Hey, I just had to call 911." And she's like, "I'm nauseous and my neck hurts." So she, because she was on oxygen, she wasn't able to get around that well all
Mhm.
the time. So she was out of breath and she's like, "I'm not able to open the door." And she had a deadbolt on. And my aunt and I were on her, like, "You need a door with a code so we can get in here." So
Mhm.
she had one on her garage, but she was still locked the door to the inside of the house. So I'm like, "How are they going to get in there to you?" So she would call 911 from time to time for nosebleeds and stuff. So I wasn't immediately alarmed. I was most alarmed about them not being able to get to her. And I'm thankful for that because I wasn't necessarily worried about her condition. I was more
Mhm.
worried about them getting to her. So, um, long story short, it was, we talked on the phone off and on the entire time. They got in there to her. They took her blood pressure. They said it was elevated. So I'm like, okay, her blood pressure is elevated. Sometimes that's normal. She's worked up. So I felt a little bit of relief. So I talked to her up until she was about 10 miles away from Emory. So once I found out she was close, I started to doze off a little bit. I think it might have been about 2:30 a.m. by that point. And then maybe at about 4 a.m., I received a phone call and I answered the phone and it was a doctor and she told me exactly what was going on with my mom and my blood just ran cold.
Mhm.
I'm like, "Oh my god," because it was something that really could have killed her in that moment. So I was just
Mhm.
kind of in shock. And before she went in, she's like, "Don't tell anybody that I'm in the hospital. Don't tell grandson. Don't tell anybody." So I'm like, "What do I do?" So in that moment, I just knew. I was like, either she's going to survive this and it's going to be a long road to recovery, or she won't. And, that kind of started the chain of events. So,
Mhm.
yeah, at that moment I knew.
You knew then that things this was unlike any of the other calls.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
What was your relationship with your mom like before she passed away?
It was good. It was good. In November, she lost her first cousin and they were really close. And her cousin had the same birthday as me. And my mom took it really hard. Like when I was younger, I had one of those moms. She would cry all the time about everything. You know how people cry so much, you just like, okay, what that's kinda how she was, but after she became saved, she was, like, really strong. She didn't cry as much at all, and she was so weepy about her cousin, and I just thought that was so different, but I didn't know 60 days later she would be gone also.
Mhm.
But, our relationship was good. My mom was like she was like my best friend. I would talk to her every day. I could talk to her about things that I couldn't tell other people. Thanksgiving, our family here is small, so it's just me, my son, my aunt, and my mom, and we plan to have Thanksgiving together. Everybody was supposed to make a dish. My mom didn't make her dish, and we ate really, really early because we knew we'd probably have to go to her house and, take her food. And all of a sudden, I get a phone call and it's her. She's outside. And we opened the door to let her in. She had driven herself to my aunt's house. She had makeup on. Her
Mhm.
hair was done. She had her shirt tied up. She was just so cute. Her nails were done. She had these sunglasses on. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
you just full Hollywood here. So it was funny. We had such a good time. We had a
Mhm.
great time. And I'm my mom's only child, so it's just me and my son. So I have my grandmother, my two aunts, and my mom. And then my mom only had me. And then I had my son. So neither of us have any first cousins on my mom's side. So we were just all
Very
really, really
close.
close. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that your mom knew at any point, do you think that she knew that this was it, that she was approaching the end?
I think about that a lot. And there's part of me that doesn't think so because when she was hospitalized and I would tell her what was going on with her, she's like, whoa, like, she didn't know that was happening. And she was hospitalized for a total of 38 days, and I could tell when she kinda started to give up. Like, in the
Mhm.
beginning, she was really motivated, it seemed like she wanted to get better. It was miraculous that she even made it through that, and
Mhm.
we were actually able to have time with her where she said some funny stuff. She said
Mhm.
a lot of funny it was just a good time for us to connect with her, but as the days went on, I could tell she was kinda, like, giving up. Okay.
So,
Okay.
you were there when your mom actually transitioned. Did you know that day that she wasn't gonna make it? Like, did you know that like, had you already kind of, had you been made aware that it wasn't looking good and that she wasn't gonna pull through this? And what was that day like when she actually transitioned?
She was in hospice care, so we knew, she just kinda said, "This is it for me,"
Mhm.
and so
Mhm.
we knew that she was gonna have to go to hospice. We didn't know how long she would be there, and the day she died, I didn't know, but she had kinda stopped responding,
Mhm.
so I was just there with her, and I just kinda would hold her hand the whole time, and she was just, breathing, but she just wasn't responding or anything at all, so I really wasn't sure,
Mhm.
um, but she passed while I was holding her hand, and it's
Mhm.
like she was breathing and then she just stopped. And then after like a minute, I'm like, "Is this it?" So I just kinda hopped up and ran out of the room to the front desk, and her nurse was standing there, and I'm like, "Can you come in here and check her?" And the nurse was like, "She's gone." And I was like, "Oh my God." I was just in shock. But no, I didn't know it was gonna happen that day. I knew it was gonna happen soon. I just didn't know it was gonna be at that moment.
We are the worst.
Just like you sat up there and started crying, it made me cry. I could see your nose turning red. And I was like,
You saw that. I was
"You're
trying
just
not to do
making me cry."
I'm
Shame on
sorry.
you.
I'm sorry. Shame on me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. We can edit that out.
Okay.
Okay, let's put it together. Okay. All right.
No.
Okay. So what did support look like for you immediately after, and who was there to provide you with that support?
Um, my dad was really supportive. You know my dad. He is very, very rough. And I'm like, "Dad, you are my only parent now. Like you have to step up and you have to be sensitive." And he was, and because he was so close to his mom, like when I was
Mhm.
growing up, he used to always tell my mom, like, the only two people that I know love me in this world are my mom and this little girl.
Oh,
So,
wow.
I knew when he lost my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, that it would be really hard. So I knew he understood what I was going through. So he, would really soften when it came
Mhm,
to my mom. So he's
mhm,
been super supportive and asking me, how I'm doing. I have a really, really great supportive group of friends. There's
mhm.
probably 6 core friends that have been with me for years. They knew, when my mom was hospitalized because she didn't want us to tell anybody. It was just
Right,
me and my son and my aunt that whole
right,
time she was in the hospital. So my friends have been wonderful. Um, my core group consisted of a friend who lost her son in November of
yeah,
2025, and I was kind of her support system.
yeah,
And then she had to be and I wasn't being honest with her at first because I'm like, I don't want to put this on her. This is just a month after she lost her son. But I had told so many lies. Like, "Tasha, I'm sorry. My mom is in the hospital. That is why that's why we've been in a hotel throughout the entire holidays." And then, one of my closest male friends, um, he lost his wife to ALS in
mhm,
March. So,
mhm,
you know, that's just over a month ago. So
yeah,
he checks in with me. I check in with him. My mom's friends check on me. They text me. I haven't been able to talk to any of them, like probably
mhm,
since the first day, because it kind of makes me sad. But and therapy, lots
yeah,
and lots of therapy on demand. So,
mhm.
I'm getting through it.
Good, good. What are some of the things people did that comforted you the most?
Certain things don't work for everybody, but just my friends being there for me, I got really thoughtful, good gifts. But ultimately kindness.
Mm,
People who made sure I got out of the house and came to
mhm,
get me. Like, my friend Yolanda's here. We're in the same city, and she's just like, I want to get you this and I want to get you that. And you know how I was. I'm like, don't send me flowers. Don't like, because flowers made me sad. So I'm like,
mhm.
don't send me those. And I'm like, your presence means everything. So like getting
Yeah,
me out of the house, that really helped a lot. My circle is tight, my circle of people. So everybody has really been there. We've all just been leaning on each other. And you know how life is now. Everybody is
mhm.
going through something. But my
Yeah,
thing is, if a person who buried her son, just 2 months before I lost my mom, or my friend who lost his wife just a little bit over a month ago can be there, and everybody else, including you, with everything you've been through, everybody, if people haven't already lost their parents, they're taking care of very sick parents. So,
mhm,
we're a
mhm.
circle who, we all have a lot going on. So I'm just appreciative of people who got me out of the house. Like my cousin took me to the New Edition concert.
Yes.
a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm so thankful." So, I'm just thankful for presence, for
Yeah,
people who are present.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. How do you make meaning of such a, like, monumental loss? Like, how do you process it?
You know, I mean, my mom has been sick. My mom's life expectancy was actually up in 2017.
Mm.
So, she exceeded that, and she did not pass from a lung disease. It was a complication brought on by a lung disease. So it's so hard, but I just think I, I try really hard to be there for other people and be their support. And I have a lot of support, but there are people who I've provided a lot of support to and they haven't reciprocated. So I feel like there's
Mm,
a lesson in that for me. Like you can't be all things to all people. You have to take care of yourself. So
absolutely.
um that's first and foremost. Like that saying, check on your strong friends. Like, I don't strong friends are not a thing. Strong
Right.
strong friends are really just people who, A, don't feel comfortable being vulnerable with other people, or people who don't have anybody they can be vulnerable with. And
Yes.
I have lots of people I can be vulnerable with, but I don't feel comfortable being vulnerable. Like I was the little girl who, my grandmother, all of her aunts, like my grandmother's sisters, like, she had one sister, she would just give me these spitty kisses when I was little and I would just wipe them off and my family would just be mortified. And I'm kind of still that same person, to wipe off the spitty kiss. So it's like I don't know how to necessarily be vulnerable, So this has just taught me you can't be there for everybody. You
Right.
need to take care of you and people who love you. So, yeah, I don't even remember what the original question is, but
Um, so yeah, it was how do you make meaning of the loss? And I think that the point that you were making is that you learned to save some of yourself. And
save
that's
some of
because
myself.
you are, if I could interject, you are everything. Like you're the first person there when something happens for someone else. And, you know, maybe you can
And
save some of that. And then maybe you can kind of, when you need to be able to cry, you'll be able to call someone or, maybe at some point you'll feel vulnerable enough to allow yourself to cry. Um,
yeah, I doubt it. And she was more religious and I'm more spiritual. So doing things that she did, they bring me comfort. So there was a prayer line that she would call into every day during the week at 6 a.m. And the
mhm.
leader of that prayer line spoke at her funeral, and she has just been so amazing throughout the entire
Oh,
ordeal. Like when my mom really wasn't conscious and she was trying to communicate how she was feeling, and we were trying to get her prayer, and we would be like, "What about this person? What about that person?" And she would be like, "Mm-mm, mm-mm." And then we got her, Apostle McIntosh, and it's like once we got her, my mom was like, "Whew." So
mhm.
sometimes she wouldn't have her eyes open, but we would call Apostle McIntosh, put her on speakerphone. She would pray for my mom, and my mom would just kind of have her eyes closed. But I could tell she
Mm.
was really comforted. And she has been so supportive, and she facilitates that 6 a.m. prayer call. And I told myself, I'm going to get on this call. And I would doze off every morning. But because my mom did it, I would do it. And it was funny because my mom got such a kick out of the fact that, there's a bunch of women on the call. There's men on the call too, and they would take turns praying, so they might call one, like my mom's close friend Pat was on that. She would be on the
Mhm.
call every morning and she leads prayer a lot. But Pat is like a
Mm.
night owl. So she would be sleeping on the call and they would call her and she would know because she was sleeping. And my mom got such a kick out of that. And that's me. Like I'm sleeping on the prayer call, but sometimes I hear them call my name and I'm like, okay, they're giving me prayer. And then my friend Latasha, the one who lost her son in November, I told her about the prayer line and she speaks,
Oh,
she
wow.
prays on that call and she thanked me for inviting her. So she came to support me on that call and
Mhm.
she is, she's been blessed by it. So just being on the call, even if I'm sleeping, that makes me feel closer to my mom.
How has losing her
I put,
changed
okay.
the way you view time, family, or forgiveness?
It taught me that I am responsible for my own healing. I'm a daddy's girl and my mom kinda struggled with that because I always felt like my mom was so beautiful but I felt like I didn't look like her. I felt like I looked like my dad. I did. I looked like my dad. So I just felt like when I was little, I just felt like I belonged more with his side of the family.
Mm,
And
mhm,
then, I struggled with my mom growing up because she was
mhm.
so holy and I was so like I was in the church, but you know me. People
Yeah.
enjoy my bad behavior, not my so it's like, how did I get this mom that's almost like angelic? And then my name is Angel, but I was far from that. And it's so, I just struggled. But as I grew up, I started to understand my mom. Like, once I became an adult, like dating and dealing with men who were close,
Oof.
who were similar to my dad, I started to understand her as a woman. And then once I became a mom, I started to understand her as a mom. And I carried a lot of things that we went through when I was younger, but it's like it's taught me that I'm responsible for my own healing. Cause I look back and I was 18 so long ago. I've been an adult much longer than I was a child.
Mhm,
And it's like you have to get help for yourself. Sometimes you will go to your parents and you will say, "I have this issue with you," and they're not in a position to receive it. They're
mhm.
not always going to apologize. And my mom has apologized for some things that we went through in our childhood, but it's like you have to take responsibility for yourself.
Yeah.
You can't carry that around, and you're not doing it for your parents. You're doing it for you. My son, like he felt really bad because my mom called him before that trip to the hospital. She called him like that evening, and for whatever reason, he didn't answer. But I spoke to her later on that evening, and he walked in my room and then he talked to her then. And she's like, "I called you, grandson." And he was like, "I'm sorry, Yaya." So he just kind of talked to her then. Then after she passed, he felt so bad. And I said, "Carlos, you can't feel bad about that. Like you have to release that and you just have to do better going forward." And I said,
Mhm.
"You had no way of knowing you wouldn't get the opportunity to talk to her on the phone again. But just forgive yourself, grow from it, and move forward."
What's the
Okay.
lesson that you live with from this?
Very cliche, but tomorrow is not promised. Like I did not know when I received that phone call at 1:50 a.m. that would be the last time that I spoke to my mother in that capacity. I was able
Mm.
to speak to her when she was hospitalized, but she was very sick. So, yeah, that tomorrow's not promised, and I am no longer the strong friend. Like, take
Mm.
me out of the strong friend group. That is not me anymore. The way that I show up for people is going to be completely different. I have to show up for myself and my son as his mom first. So I'm not the strong friend. So if I showed up for
Mm.
people in some capacity before, like the people who have been there for me, I will be there without saying, without a second thought. But everybody else, just go ahead and remove my number from the strong friends category
Wow.
because that's no longer me.
Right, right. That's good. That's good. In our final question, so Mother's Day is approaching, and the first Mother's Day won't even be 6 months. What is Mother's Day gonna look like for you?
I don't know. Like, that is the whole reason I'm doing this launch because I'm kind of, there's a lot of trepidation about Mother's Day.
Mhm,
So I have no idea. It hasn't been one of those things where like this day comes around and I feel this way. Like for her birthday in February, we were on a cruise.
mhm.
So, travel is my happy place. So I don't know what I'm gonna be like on that day. I am hoping that with everything with this channel that I will kinda be immersed in that and kinda not think about it. I try not to just schedule grief, I don't wanna
Mm.
do that. I wanna be in a good place.
Yeah,
So, yeah, just, like, taking one day at a time and honoring
yeah.
her in ways that she would be proud.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Angel. And of course, our condolences on the loss of Her Royal Highness, um,
HRH.
HRH girl. And thank you. That's it. We're
Thank
at
you.
time.
Thank you,
You're
friend.
welcome.